The single biggest mistake beginners make is dropping thousands of dollars on loud, complex power tools before they ever cut a single board by hand. You actually need just 5 specific hand tools and a sturdy bench to start building professional quality furniture for under $300 total. I've linked every tool below so you can skip the gimmicks and start building today. You cannot plane wood accurately if your workbench rocks or wobbles. You need a heavy, immobile foundation. The Sjobergs Smart 1500 is a Scandinavian-made workbench that is, quite frankly, the perfect entry point. It features solid beech construction, a heavy-duty front vise, and bench dog holes for securing workpieces vertically or horizontally. At around $400, it isn't cheap, but it is an investment that will last decades, whereas a cheap hardware store table will just buckle under pressure. When buying, ensure the top is made of solid glued laminated timber, not MDF or particle board, because you need the density to absorb the shock of your mallet. The jack plane is your primary surfacing tool, used to flatten rough lumber and remove mill marks. The Stanley No. 62 low-angle jack plane is the modern standard for beginners because its low cutting angle reduces tear-out on difficult grains significantly better than traditional bench planes. It features a ductile iron body and a thick A2 steel blade that holds an edge for a long time, which means less time sharpening and more time planing. You should expect to pay roughly $110 to $130 for a new one. Avoid buying antique planes on eBay unless you are willing to spend hours rehabilitating them. For now, buy new and look for one where the sole is dead flat against the straight edge out of the box. But buying the right tools is only half the battle. I'm going to show you the single technique error that destroys 90% of first-time projects in the mistakes section coming up. For now, you need a saw that actually tracks straight, and Western push saws are notoriously difficult for beginners to control. Enter the Japanese Ryoba, a pull saw that cuts on the draw stroke, keeping the blade under tension for a thinner kerf and straighter cut. The Z-Saw 250 features 2 edges, one for cross-cutting across the grain and one for ripping down the length of the board. Costs about $45. When you order, make sure to get the Ryoba style with the replaceable blade. Never try to sharpen these impulse-hardened teeth yourself. You simply cannot glue wood together without clamps. Human hands are not strong enough to hold the tight pressure needed for wood glue to set. The Irwin quick grip bar clamps are essential because they are lightweight, one-handed, and switch from clamping to spreading instantly. You will need at least 4 of these for basic project assembly, and at around $15 each, they are the best value on the market. The resin body is tough enough for workshop use but light enough not to fatigue your wrists during long glue-ups. Do not buy the old-school wooden screw clamps as your primary set. They are too slow to adjust when your glue is drying, so specifically look for the quick grip trigger mechanism. Woodworking is a lifetime of learning, but you don't need a garage full of industrial machinery to make your first dovetail joint or build a keepsake box. With a solid bench, a sharp plane, a reliable square, and a decent saw, you can produce work that rivals machine-made furniture. I've specifically linked the Sjobergs bench, the Stanley plane, and the Z-Saw in the description below so you can find the exact models I trust. Subscribe to So You Want To for more guides on setting up your workshop, and click the video on the screen to see the hand tool techniques every beginner needs to master.